What is going on, you guys? This is the Q-Bone here. And as you can see, I'm wearing teal and black like a Duval cat. And that must mean I'm here to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And welcome to another installment of the Teal and Black Review and Preview Show. If you don't know how this show works, allow me to explain it. I'm going to review the previous game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as give you a little bit of a preview for the next upcoming opponent. So let's not waste any of your guys' time. I'm recording this pretty late, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So before we talk about the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 3, we have to do the review portion. So let's take a little bit of a rewind and look back at Week 2, where the Jacksonville Jaguars hosted the Indianapolis Colts. And if you can't see that score right there, allow me to put it up big onto the screen right now. 24-0. 24-0. This is the third shutout the Jacksonville Jaguars have had against the Indianapolis Colts over the last, 6 years? Since 2017, this is their third shutout. And this is the 8th straight season that the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Colts in Jacksonville. Technically, you can say one of those home games was actually over in London. Regardless, 8 straight. So let's go ahead and talk about the 3 takeaways that I've had from this game. The first and foremost, this defense was dominant for Jacksonville. Oh my heavens. I mean, they were having a field day. Allow me to read the stats off for you just to show you how dominant this team was in this game. 5 sacks, 2 of which came from Josh Allen, who also had a forced fumble. You had Andre Sisco get an interception. You had Rayshon Jenkins get an interception. Foley Fatukasi tips a pass at the line of scrimmage, which falls beautifully right into the hands of Devin Lloyd for an interception. That's 3 interceptions now. And of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars were really good against the run, as I expected. They held Jonathan Taylor to only 9 carries for 54 yards the entire game. No touchdowns, obviously. And not only that, Jonathan Taylor only had 5 carries for 4 yards in the first half. Wow. That's shutting him out. That is the definition of shutting out a key player. I mentioned last week that if the Jaguars were going to win this game, they had to stop Jonathan Taylor. And when Jonathan Taylor had his opportunities to run with the football, more often than not, he didn't really have much production. So huge props to Foley Fatukasi, Roy Robertson-Harris, Devon Hamilton, all those guys up front. They were sensational against one of the best running backs in the league. My second takeaway was that the offense drastically improved. It was night and day compared to Week 1, compared to Week 2. I got the stats right now for Trevor Lawrence. He was 25 of 30 for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not only that, but this offensive line did not give up a single sack the entire game. That's exactly what I wanted from this offensive line. They were just being manhandled Week 1 against the Commanders, and looking ahead next week, they're going to have their hands full again with some of these all-pro players that they're going to be going up against. But this week in particular, they stopped DeForest Buckner and Yannick Ngakoue, made them basically irrelevant in this entire game. I barely heard their names get called all game. So kudos to them. Also, Christian Kirk having a great start to his 2022 season. He had another 6 catches. He had 78 yards and 2 touchdown receptions. That free agency signing is looking really, really good now. And then, of course, one player I wanted to highlight, doesn't really get a whole lot of attention right now, but Evan Ingram has been playing really well this season as well. He had 7 catches in this game for 46 yards, but more importantly, a lot of those catches were converting third downs. There was one play in particular where he catches the ball and he has to stiff arm a guy just to get past the defender and get a first down. He was not going to be denied. He was going to get that first down. And of course, James Robinson led the team in rushing with 23 carries for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. Really, they didn't allow James Robinson to really get going. The Colts were pretty good at stopping the run, but they did give up a 37-yard touchdown run to James Robinson. One thing I do want to mention also, before I move on to my next topic, is that the Jaguars were actually very effective on 3rd down and 4th down in this game, at least in the first half of the game. Overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars were 6 of 15 on 3rd down, but a lot of those 3rd down conversions were earlier in the game when they were getting that 17-0 lead at halftime. They also converted a very important 4th down conversion in the first half as well. There were 2 of 3 overall on 4th down conversions in this game. And also, they were only penalized 3 times for 19 yards, which is a drastic change from last week when they were penalized 13 times for about 90 yards. And also, they had a time of possession of 38 minutes and 15 seconds. That's damn near 40 minutes they held on to the ball. Jeez, they didn't even let the Colts have an opportunity to make a comeback in this game. There is one thing, though, I would like to see improvement from the Jaguars offense from this game, and that is that in the 4th quarter, they had 3 straight 3-and-outs in the 4th quarter. That's not something I really want to see from my offense when they're trying to bleed out the clock. You realistically want to see them get first downs in those situations, but either way, they still came away with a shutout victory, 24-0. And my last takeaway for this game is that the Indianapolis Colts look terrible. Oh my God, they look terrible. It was like a part of me was excited to like go back and rewatch this game because obviously the score was 24-0, and I'm excited about the fact that, you know, I made a bet with my coworker who is an Indianapolis Colts fan, and I get a free lunch at work because of, you know, our little rivalry that we have. But man, when I turned this game on just to watch, you know, take my notes down and see like how the game actually turned out, man, it was bad. It was bad. Like, oh my goodness. First of all, Jonathan Taylor only had 9 carries the entire game. Really? Only 9? I mean, I'll take that as a Jaguars fan, but like, really? And then Matt Ryan was, he had the same amount of attempts as Trevor Lawrence, 30 attempts, but he only had 16 completions and 3 interceptions. Granted, you know, they were out Alec Pierce. They didn't have Michael Pittman. Really, it was Wally Cox and maybe one other receiver that he had to throw the football to. But even still, like, people constantly talked about how the Colts were the top team going in, you know, in terms of best teams in the AFC South. Everyone was raving, oh, the Colts are going to win this division easily, all this and that, because now they got Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan looks like hot garbanzo beans. Terrible. He looks awful. I mean, he looks like a man that was running on fumes to begin with when he left Atlanta, if you get my drift. So, and one thing that was also very interesting was that after the game, I actually watched some Indianapolis Colts fans, you know, podcasts and stuff like that, just to get an idea of like how the Colts fan base is coping with this 8 straight loss to the Jaguars in Jacksonville. And man, it feels like they're about to go on a witch hunt for Frank Reich. It really feels like they want that man gone, essentially. They really want that man gone. And if this continues, because Jacksonville and Indianapolis play again very shortly in week 6, if this happens again, bro, and they got to play the Chiefs next week. All right, now let's move on to the AFC South Roundup. This is the part of the video where I recap all the records for the teams in the AFC South. Where do they stand? Who's at top? Who's on bottom? You get the drift. Sitting as the only team currently with a win is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm very excited, very happy for that. Obviously, as you can clearly see. But we'll see how long that lasts, though, because they got to play the Eagles 2 weeks from now. Next week, they got to play the Chargers. And then we'll see how long they stay at the top of the AFC South. We'll see how long. Hopefully, they're up there for a while. The Houston Texans lost last Sunday against the Denver Broncos. It was a very low-scoring game. Houston was actually in the lead for a good portion of it in the second half, but Denver was able to make a comeback towards the end of the game. Indianapolis, obviously, they've looked absolutely terrible these last 2 weeks against divisional opponents nonetheless, and they currently sit at an 0-1-1 record. And then the only team that lose 2 games so far this season was the team that actually was the number 1 seed in the playoffs last year, the Tennessee Titans. Now, they just, as I'm recording this, Monday Night Football just concluded. The Tennessee Titans played the Buffalo Bills. The score was like 41-7. I'm not really going to kick them while they're down. Most teams, if the Jaguars had to play the Buffalo Bills, that probably would have been the same outcome. And yes, I know Jaguars fans, don't jump on the comment section just yet. I understand. The Jaguars beat the Bills last year 9-6. I understand that. That was one of the only wins Urban Meyer had here. So I remember it very vividly. That wouldn't happen every single Sunday. I can guarantee you that. All right, folks. Now let's transition over to the preview portion of the video where next week the Jacksonville Jaguars will travel out to SoFi Stadium to face the Los Angeles Chargers. Going into this game, the Jaguars and the Chargers sit at a 1-1 record. And the 3 things that I have written down, some players to keep an eye out. First and foremost, Justin Herbert. If you haven't heard, the poor guy, he has, I want to say, like some sort of rib injury. It's not an actual bone itself, but I think it's the cartilage. And I don't know if he's going to play in this game. They say he's like day-to-day and there's a chance he'll play, but if he doesn't play, their backup is Chase Daniels. And if Chase Daniels does play, I think the Jaguars' chance to win this game goes up tremendously. But honestly, there's a part of me that wants Justin Herbert to play. And the reason why I say that is because Jacksonville's defense has been very impressive thus far in the first 2 weeks of the season. However, if you look at the quarterbacks they played against, Carson Wentz, not a lot of people have respect for Carson Wentz. Matt Ryan, he looks like he's going to retire after this season. He looks that bad. This is a good opportunity, a good test for the Jacksonville Jaguar defense if they can go up against a guy like Justin Herbert, who's been playing really well this season and has a plethora of weapons to work with and has some really good offensive linemen to protect him. That's why I really want Justin Herbert to play, because I want to see how does the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that I think is going to win this division when it's all said and done, how do they really stack up against the other teams in the conference? The big boys, if you will. How do they stack up against the big boys? The ones that are expected to be great. The second spot right here that I have written down are all the defensive players that I'm going to keep my eye on. Guys like Khalil Mack, who had 3 sacks in one game. Joey Bosa, who's also a great defensive player. Both Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are not just great at getting to the quarterback, but helping at stopping the run. And then also you have Derwin James, who just recently got a huge contract extension. I believe he's now the highest paying safety in the league. And you also got J.C. Jackson, who they signed in the offseason, who The last time he played against Jacksonville, he had an interception. I believe it was a pick six, if I'm not mistaken, when he was in New England. I could be wrong. They dropped a 50-burger on us in that game, so that whole game's a big blur to me. So, yeah, they got a lot of playmakers on that defense. And Brandon Staley, the head coach, is a defensive-minded coach, so you would expect that the defense would be top-notch. Even though they haven't played super top-notch, they have the talent to be very good. Moving on now to the third part that I have written down here in terms of players I'm going to be looking out for the Chargers. First one I have written down here is Keenan Allen. This is the longtime receiver for the Chargers back in their San Diego days. And he didn't play last week. I don't know the extent of what Keenan Allen's injury was, but I would expect that he is going to be available for this game. And even if he is not, they still have Mike Williams, a very good receiver in his own right. They still have Austin Eckler, who is a very versatile running back, both in the run and passing game. And they also just signed Gerald Everett this last offseason to be their new tight end. So they have weapons for Justin Herbert or Chase Daniels to work with. All right, let's go ahead and talk about now the keys to victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars in this upcoming game against the Chargers. First and foremost, the offensive line has to step up once again. They got to keep Trevor protected. They got to open up those running lanes, and they're going to have their hands full. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are all pro players. All right, they're no slouches. There's some big boys out there in LA. Being able to run the football effectively, and the Chargers are really good at stopping the run. They're pretty good at stopping the run. So they're going to have to be able to open up those running lanes and also make sure that Trevor is protected, keep him clean. I'm not necessarily asking for the offensive line to not give up a sack like they did in this last game against the Colts, but at the very least, make sure that, 85% of the game, there's a clean pocket for Trevor so that he can make the throws that he needs to make. Because if you give him that clean pocket, man, he'll pick apart that defense. He will. He has shown that he can do that in the past. My second key to victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars is that the defense has to continue to be dominant. They're going to have to get after the quarterback again. They're going to have to make sure that Austin Eckler doesn't really do much in the run game. They got to be sure that they stay on Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Gerald Everett. Make sure that they can't make plays in the passing game. And they got to keep making turnovers. They've already got 5 interceptions this season, which is like 2 away from what they had last year. So they need to continue turning the football over defensively and giving the offense more opportunities to put up points, which transitions to my third key to victory. You got to score some goddamn points, because the Chargers are a very explosive offense. Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, these are some high caliber offensive players that they have on their roster. So the more opportunities they have to score points, they'll take them, which means the more opportunities we have to score points, we have to take them. I don't see this as another instance where they shut out the opposing team. They have to put up points. I would imagine 27 or more points is your minimum you're going to have to make in order to beat the Chargers, because that's how explosive they are offensively. And finally, before I do end this video, I want to give you guys my prediction of how I think this game is going to turn out between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to win this game for 2 reasons. One, I do think Justin Herbert will want to play in this game if he is able to. I think that the Chargers are a team that is already looking up, and they see that the Chiefs are going to be 3-0 because they have to play the Colts, who I already told you looks terrible. So they're going to be looking at them and be like, we got to win this game if we want to play catch up. So they're going to play with some determination that they need to show to the world that they are, in fact, one of the best teams in the AFC. And the second thing is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a team that is notorious for going on the road to the West Coast and laying fat goose eggs. They usually have their worst performance as a team as a whole when they go to the West Coast, whether it's a place like Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Oakland, Seattle, even teams that aren't actually in the West Coast, but they're in the AFC or NFC West, teams like Kansas City, or back when the Rams were in St. Louis, they didn't fare too well against those teams on the road. So I am going to take the Chargers in this game. I'm going to say the score is going to be 28-23. And with that being said, folks, I thank you all for watching this video up to this point. If you liked the video, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below of what you guys think will win this game between the Jaguars and the Chargers. I'll see you guys next week recapping this upcoming game. Take care.